Riot has gifted us another complete champion rework, and this time it's for Akali. She's being reintroduced as a high skill cap assassin that requires pinpoint mechanical skills and game sense. Of course, you'll be greatly rewarded when you master her and actually feel a sense of accomplishment for each of your outplays. This being said, you must accept that you will probably do very poorly in your first few games as Akali. She's difficult to play and will take time, so give yourself that time before you make any decisions about her status in the meta. Overall, we're thinking this is a great rework and should throw her right into the upper parts of every tier list and is a great champion to pick up. Before we get started with today's videos, I want to announce the new ProGuides experience. We completely rebuilt the learning platform to help you achieve your dream division. Watch videos, talk to a challenger player anytime, and get the latest champion and meta info every day to make sure you're always one step ahead of the competition. Fiddlesticks is one of the most dominant supports in the game at the moment. He commands the laning phase and has the ability to negate carries with a point and click CC ability. This being said, the nerf to Fiddle this patch shouldn't surprise anyone. His E will now cost more mana in the early game, but the same at later ranks. The damage is also being reduced by a very small amount. This change won't stop players from playing Fiddle to great success. All it will do is temper his laning phase and make it more bearable to play against. We still highly recommend playing Fiddlestick support. Fizz players should be much happier with this patch than the last patch because he's getting some big ratio buffs. His W mechanic rework left him in shambles, and he instantly became one of the weaker assassin picks. To compensate, his W base damage and ratios are all being increased by a significant amount. His ultimate will now deal a lot more damage, especially for the Guppy and the Chomper. This should greatly help Fizz, and increasing ratios for any assassin is a huge buff. We're feeling much more optimistic about Fizz at this point. If he was in your champion pool in the past, then it might be time to try him out again. Irelia is again being tweaked this patch, but it's looking like the trend is coming to an end. Her passive is actually being buffed in the form of additional damage, while the rest of her abilities are being nerfed. Her Q and W will deal less damage throughout the game and have less range. Her W now has a set amount of damage reduction throughout all the ranks. Lastly, her ultimate will have a reduced range. None of these changes should push Irelia into irrelevance, but it's definitely something to monitor. Irelia's win rates are far from impressive, and it suggests that you now must be very skilled to make her work. We suggest playing other champions if you're looking to climb consistently, unless you already put a bunch of hours into Irelia and you're still doing well. Kindred has received a few huge buffs to her overall kit and is clearly reaping the benefits from it. She's performing well in all elos and in all solo queue situations. In this patch, her W and R are being nerfed. Her W will now give significantly less bonus attack speed, and her ultimate is going to be on a much longer cooldown. What this means for Kindred is that you won't be as overtuned, but you'll still be very strong. You should still be looking to pick Kindred, especially into the right team compositions, because she's still going to be a power pick moving forward. Lee Sin is quite possibly the most dangerous champion to buff because the skill gap between a low and high level player is immense. This being said, Riot is doing the unthinkable and giving Lee Sin a buff to his Q. The main change is that it will now deal an incredibly large amount of execute damage. This buff has many implications because he'll now be able to translate his early game dominance to the later stages of the game. Another factor that will be overlooked is that it will help his clear speed as well. This is a monumental moment for Lee Sin players, and you shouldn't be surprised to see Lee Sin at a very high pick rate for the next few weeks. Morgana is doing very well in this meta, and Riot seems to be happy with letting her continue to be a top tier pick. Morgana is getting slightly nerfed in her base mana regen and the mana cost of her E. These changes should have little to no effect on her, and I would advise all support mains to play her or at least understand her kit. She's gonna be in a majority of your games whether you like it or not, so you can either beat her or join her. Olaf clearly needs some love, and more importantly, some buffs. This patch is going to increase Olaf's attack speed bonus from his W by a significant amount. This change is definitely going to help Olaf's jungle clear, and it's a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, a step isn't enough, and there are just so many more superior jungle picks at the moment. However, if this is just the beginning of a string of buffs, a re-emergence of Olaf is completely plausible. For now, just keep track of the changes, and we'll let you know when Olaf should again be considered to be part of your champion pool. Any experienced and capable Quinn player is currently dominating. It starts and ends in the laning phase where Quinn absolutely dominates whoever is in front of her. Of course, this means that her laning phase is being nerfed this patch. She's going to have less base armor, and her passive is going to deal slightly less damage. Both the values weren't nerfed by significant amounts, so you should continue to expect a high level of dominance from Quinn. There isn't a much better time than now to learn how to play Quinn. Syndra has been re-emerging as a mid lane pick, but her win rate is beyond horrid. She's known as a lane dominant champion, however she's not doing well enough in that regard. This patch is looking to help her with an increase to the base damage of her Q at early ranks. This change alone will not be nearly enough to bring her into an undisputable meta pick, but it's a start. At the moment, Syndra requires a large amount of skill for little payoff, so I wouldn't consider her to be a strong pick for climbing. Thresh is a clear support fan favorite, and it shows in his pick rate through the seasons. Thresh isn't exactly underperforming, so it's even more surprising that he's being buffed. His W is going to have a reduced cooldown at later ranks, and his E deals much more damage at lower ranks. This is a huge change for Thresh, and giving kill pressure to a champion that has a complete kit is a very risky move in a balanced perspective. If you're a Thresh enthusiast, then you must consider playing him into favorable matchups this patch. All support items are going to have their cost increased by 50 gold this patch. This is effectively reducing the amount of health potions you can buy by 1. Suffering poke is going to be a lot more punishing, and because of that, I expect caster supports will see a small uptick in usage. This change should make you reconsider taking careless trades, especially as all-in champions. Infinity Edge, Mercurial Scimitar, and Storm Razor are being changed in similar fashions. They're all going to cost less gold, but will have decreased stats. Riot is being very cautious with anything that's related to AD carries, so they're testing giving them an earlier but weaker power spike. This should be a good change in the right direction because truthfully, AD carries are beginning to be picked very consistently now, so a huge tweak could put them over the top. I don't see the Infinity Edge and Mercurial Scimitar change being significant, but the Storm Razor change could be great since the passive is a huge reason why you buy the item and it wasn't tampered with. Perfect Timing is a problematic rune, and it recently got buffed to activate at 8 minutes. Unfortunately, this patch is reverting that change and it's going back to 10 minutes. The usage of this rune is going to drop again, and it's proven to be one of the most difficult to balance runes to date. There are very few select champions that will still go for the rune, but even then, you can skip over it because you usually want a rune to give you a boost starting from level 1. Thanks for watching our patch notes breakdown. If you're curious about more in-depth champion information, be sure to check out the new ProGuides.